Today is the day you will lose fat. Come see Dr. T at NJ Diet.
Easiest diet I've ever done. It's changed my life. Come see Dr. T.
Using blood work and DNA testing. 1-855-5NJ-DIET and NJDiet.com. Change your life in only 40 days with NJ Diet.
New Yorkers born and bred. Bernie and Sid in the morning.
Bernard McGurk and Sid Rosenberg.
Making mischief their business. 77 WABC and the WABC radio app.
The 2-1 pitch. There's a fly ball hit out to left. Waiting is Jones. The Mets are the world champions. Gary Koosman being mobbed. Look at this scene.
Meet the Mets. Step
yes. Memories of great Mets, 1969. 50 years ago, folks, Mets, that epic World Series win against the Baltimore Orioles. You'll remember Davey Johnson making the last out, went on to manage the Mets to the 86 World Series win. The series before that, the NLCS, the first year ever they had an NLCS. The Mets swept the Braves, and our guest sitting to my left, who's here with Eric Sherman, his co-writer for the great book After the Miracle, The Lasting Brotherhood of the 69 Mets. Art Shamsky hit .537 in that series, going 7 of 13, was a major reason why, along with Seaver and a few of the pitchers, Nolan Ryan, Mets beat Atlanta to get to the World Series. If you're a Met fan, you got to love this guy. Oh, yeah. Say hello to the great Art Shamsky, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Art Shamsky. Wow.
I haven't had a pause in a long time. Thank you very much.
Come on. Channel 5 this morning, they were applauding for you. You were terrific. You look good on TV.
Yeah, thanks.
I want to go to your early in your career. We'll get to the 69 World Series, and then we'll wrap it up. You come up in 65 with the Reds. So here's this nice kid from Columbia, Missouri, who all of a sudden...
St. Louis.
Okay. Right there with Pete Rose, Vada Pinson, Tony Perez. What was it like being a rookie in Cincinnati in 65?
And Frank Robinson also.
Frank Robinson,
right. It was,
who just passed away.
It was a thrill for me because I had spent 5 years in the minors, because if you remember back then, Sid, it was tougher to get to the big leagues than it is now, less teams. And I had...
Plus you were Jewish. Say how that again.
I had a lot... probably, but I had a lot of good years in the minor leagues. And you know, as I moved up, I kept thinking the next year I'm going to be in the big leagues, and I ended up spending 2 years in AAA,
right,
which wasn't so bad because it was San Diego. That was their AAA team before they went into the big leagues. But coming up with the Reds, which was the prelude to the Big Red Machine, was really a thrill for me.
Yeah.
And all those guys I'm still friends with today, Bench and Rose and Tony Perez. We all started in the minor leagues together.
Wow.
And it was great. The Reds always had good teams. Frank Robinson was terrific, a tough guy, but got to know him pretty well. You mentioned Vada Pinson, and it was. But what was interesting about those years is I played for 3 managers in about 4 years over there. They changed managers every other year.
Sparky Anderson.
Well, this is pre-Sparky.
Right.
I had Dick Sisler. I had Dave Bristol, and I had, I forget the other guy who was third base coach for a while with me in San Diego. But there was 3 managers, so it was a great experience. But you mentioned getting over to the Mets, which at the first for me was a little bit of a shock.
Well, I was going to ask you that 1968 trade where the Mets got you for Bob Johnson, one of the all-time greats. How about that day when you find out you're coming here to New York?
Well, that was a shock for me because anytime you get traded for the first time, it's always a shock. And, of course, the Mets were not a very good team. And I didn't really like New York. It was big and noisy and, the whole thing. And there's a little bit of a story I can tell you real quick. I had just gotten operated, first of many operations for me. And the general manager at Cincinnati was a guy named Bob Hausum. And I was in St. Louis in my home. And I thought he was calling to see how I was feeling. And before he could say anything, I said, Mr. Hausum, I'm looking forward to next year. I feel great. I felt terrible. And he said, well, I'm glad you feel good because we just traded you to the Mets. So wait, the story goes on. And so then he said, but Bing Devine, the general manager of the Mets, is going to call you. And I knew Bing Devine as a kid growing up in St. Louis. He did call me about an hour later, and he said, we've been trying to make a trade for you. New York is great. The Mets are an up-and-coming team. And I said, Mr. Devine, thank you so much for making me feel a lot better. He said, you're welcome. We want you to come to New York and get a physical, and et cetera, et cetera. 2 days later, I picked up the paper and read where Bing Devine left the Mets and came back to the Cardinals. So I was the last trade he made, and after telling me how great it was, he left. But the reality of it was, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And a couple years later, my life changed when October 16th, 1969.
No doubt. The great Art Shamsky from, again, the Miracle Mets of 1969. The book is called After the Miracle, The Lasting Brotherhood of the 69 Mets. And it was co-written with Eric Sherman, by the way, who wrote another book with you, Art, I believe, in the past. But in any case, you got a bunch of book signings. I want to get that out of the way. This is important. People want to see you.
Okay.
You're going to be out on Long Island at the Turn of the Corkscrew Books and Wine in Rockville Center. That's my hood, at 7 o'clock. And that's March 22nd, Friday night. Saturday night, Ridgewood, New Jersey, Bookends. Saturday, March 30th, 2 p.m., Queens, the Book Culture in Long Island City. And finally, Thursday, April 25th, the Book Review in Huntington at 7 o'clock, which is a fabulous place. A lot of people have been there. You're going to get big crowds out there.
I hope so. And a lot of Met fans, and I hope I got complete confidence they'll really like this book, because it's really not a book about every game that year. It's really about friendships and caring about each other and aging. I mean, it's really about what life is all about. And we made a trip out to see Tom Seaver a couple years ago when he started not traveling, and we wanted to be with him, and took 3 other teammates, and Eric went out with us, and it was really a bittersweet moment, because Tom was not feeling great, and we got a chance to sit down with him and reminisce a little bit, and the weekend was really great, because it was a wonderful exchange of memories and wonderful things to go through, and we all felt our age, but the reality of it was we stretched out the truth a little bit in some of the stories.
Right. I noticed.
But ball players do that all the time. but it was a great weekend for us, and really the crux of the book is about that trip out there. But it's not just about Tom Seaver; it's about the memories and the camaraderie that was with all the guys on the team. And incidentally, I don't know if you guys know this, we've lost 10 guys from that team. Including a great manager, Gil Hodges, and 4 of the coaches.
Who should be in the Hall of Fame. That's a crime. That's an absolute crime. Pete Rose and Gil Hodges. The place, to me, the institution lacks any credibility when the all-time leader in hits and the guy that was a great Brooklyn Dodger and managed the Mets to a 69 World Series win are not in the Hall of Fame. Now, Eric, I know you for many years, Eric Sherman, who wrote the book here with Art Shamsky. You've written 2 with Art, but many other books as well. Tell me about this one specifically, sitting down with Art and going through all these great Met memories.
Well, we interviewed nearly everybody that had anything to do with the team, all the players, the head's grounds crew person, Mrs. Gil Hodges. So that was really the center of the book. But the angle, what truly makes this different from the other 40 books written about the 69 Mets, was that journey. And you could really say that it was the final reunion of the franchise, Tom Seaver, with some of his teammates and pals from that 69 team. And
because he won't be there this summer, obviously.
That's right. And for me personally, we rented a van at San Francisco Airport. I've got Kuzman riding shotgun. I've got Ron Swoboda, Bud Harrelson, and Art Shamsky in the back seat. And we're driving up to Tom Seaver's house and vineyard. How much better does it get?
Well, don't be mad at me, Art, but as soon as Eric said we rented a van and we drove it, I thought about Cleon Jones.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another story altogether. But
I can't help
you might have to explain it for
band 69 Mets. Come on, Eric.
You might have to explain it for those who don't remember that.
Hey, listen, that outfield with Tommy Agee and Cleon Jones and Art Shamsky and Ron Swoboda, a couple of guys, forgetting about all that, those other stories. Those guys can play. It was a pretty good outfield.
Well, it was a great. They were great teammates, and Tommy in center field. He actually won Game 3 in the World Series just by himself with those 2 great catches and hit a home run in the bottom of the first. And Cleon hit .340 that year. And if you put the year together in right field with myself and Ron Swoboda, it's a pretty good year in terms of home runs and RBIs. But Gil Hodges had the ability to get the most out of everybody on that team. And I think that really is the legacy of that team, because when you talk about it, it's not just about Tom Seaver and Jerry Kuzman and Cleon and Tommy Agee and all the rest. It's about the guys who were at the end of the bench that all contributed something to that team. Al Weiss, Rod Gaspar,
sure.
And names that...
J.C. Martin, you mentioned a lot in the book. That was great. was great.
And that's a true legacy of that team because people remember those guys and what they did to help us win. And as I mentioned before, all of our lives changed on October 16th that year.
All those names you mentioned. I mean, I grew up in this city, and I was not even 10 years old when you won the World Series. I remember it like it was yesterday. And the names, again, they're fresh in my mind. Other names, Buddy Harrelson, of course, Amos Otis, guys like that, Don Clendenin. And I also remember listening to the games with Ralph Kiner, Lindsey Nelson, Bob Murphy on the radio. I mean, it's just part of New York. It's part of our, I don't know, it's indelible in our heads.
I think one of the two things that I think that resonate with people is where we came from to win a world championship. Remember, we were, I don't want to get credit for the early years because I wasn't there, but known as the lovable losers, and people expected them to lose, and even in '68 we finished ninth, a half game out of last place. But that in itself, that the fact that we beat an incredible Baltimore Oriole team in the World Series, and by the way, Sid, this is for you.
Yeah.
Little trivia. I made the last out of the only game we lost in the World Series.
That's right. That's right.
So remember that.
Yeah, no, I forgot about that. I like putting Davey Johnson out better.
But the second thing to remember, which I think is really important, is what was going on in the world at the time, the city of New York and the country. War in Vietnam was tearing this country apart. The city of New York was going under financially, socially, emotionally, economically. You had assassinations. You had everything bad going on in the world.
The riots and
not everything bad. You got Woodstock. You had the man walking on the moon.
Well, those
My
things,
wife was born.
Okay.
The Manson murders.
Okay.
I mean, it was like insanity. It
was crazy.
Yeah.
No, your point is well taken. It was crazy.
Well, the first book I wrote was The Magnificent Seasons, about the three teams that year, the Jets, the Mets, and the Knicks.
Right.
And doing that book, I tried to find some timeline events and never could find any good news other than the walk on the moon or Woodstock. There was never any good news.
No.
So I think that fact and where we came from, those two things about how we made people feel better about their lives for a brief period of time, they've passed that on to their kids and their grandkids. And I think even today, I meet kids who weren't even born, or young people who weren't even born, and tell me about how their parents told them, how great the team was. And over the years, and you'll get a kick out of this, I always tell people I've run.
Save it. Don't stay with us.
Okay.
We have one more segment to go. We want to keep you here.
Okay.
I want to hear what you have to say about over the years, what the kids are saying.
Okay.
And I also want to talk about what you did that year, because on August 14th, you guys were 10 games back. There was no reason to believe we'd be celebrating a World Series win 2 months later. More with the great Art Shamsky and Eric Sherman. The book is out after the miracle, right after these words.
Bernie and Sid in the morning.
Hey, folks, you know how much I love the MyPillow, and, of course, the MyPillow mattress topper, which was created by this wonderful guy, Mike Lindell. This guy's never stops. He's coming out with all kinds of things. Anyway, the latest is the world's most comfortable bed sheets. He finally found the best cotton in the world in a region where the Sahara Desert, the Nile River, and the Mediterranean Sea all come together to create the ideal weather conditions for growing cotton. His new Giza Dreams bed sheets, they're made with this long staple cotton, and he guarantees they're going to be the most comfortable sheets you'll ever own. Folks, I have some at home. I haven't put them on my bed yet, but I will, and will report back to you. The first night you sleep on these sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else. The Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors, and like all of Mike's products, they come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. To get 30% off plus free shipping, go to MyPillow.com today. Use promo code WABC or call them at this number, 800-887-2185. That's MyPillow.com or 800-887-2185.
Hey, don't miss a minute of the Tuesday edition of the Brian Kilmeade Show. We'll talk about the economy. 7 to 10 of you say it's great, but they say the president on the budget is not great. What can he do to change all that in 2020? If you can't beat him, change him. Don't miss a minute of this edition of the Brian Kilmeade Show.
Brian Kilmeade. Weekdays 10 to noon after Bernie and Sid in the morning.
Now on Echo devices.
77
WABC.
The brand new show on 77 WABC. It's The Rev and the Rabbi. The Rev, A.R. Bernard, and the Rabbi, Joseph Potasnik. Every Sunday at 8 a.m. Sponsored by Power Express Mortgage.
Power Express Mortgage Bankers is licensed by the NYS Department of Financial Services and is an equal opportunity lender. NMLS 1324.
NJ Diet's taking weight loss and wellness to a whole new level. With multiple offices in the tri-state area, they've now expanded with offices in Shelton and Rocky Hill, Connecticut, and now with a brand new office in Staten Island. NJ Diet's Guaranteed program uses hair, saliva, and their bioenergetic scans to personalize natural formulas to shed 20 to 40 pounds in only 40 days. NJ Diet then utilizes DNA testing to determine your ideal diet, workout plans, specific needs for essential vitamins, plus way more metabolic factors are assessed genetically to make sure you keep it off and stay healthy for the rest of your life. This info can also be used by any of your healthcare providers in the future. NJ Diet's all natural. No shots, no hormones, and no surgery. Locations in New Jersey, New York, and now Connecticut. Full supervision is provided every step of the way. You'll even have the doctor's personal email and phone number. Call today, 8555-NJ-DIET, or log on to njdiet.com to learn how you can lose 20 to 40 pounds or more in only 40 days. That's 8555-NJ-DIET, or go to njdiet.com.
Gold is a better way. Imagine doing business with a company that seeks to add massive value before asking for your business. My name's Adam Barada. I'm the co-owner of Advantage Gold and the author of the national best-selling book, Gold is a Better Way. The book may not be for you, but the tens of thousands who've read it have been blown away to learn why gold is set to soar to over $10,000. We're so confident this book will change the way you think about investing, we've purchased 1,000 copies from the publisher and are giving them to serious investors. If you have an IRA or 401k with over $100,000, we'd like to send you your copy. Just text the word bestseller to 49776. That's bestseller to 49776. You can buy it on Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, or text bestseller and get it for free. Text bestseller to 49776. That's bestseller to 49776. We promise to add massive value before ever asking for your business.
Flex to impress with Van Heusen's Flex Collection. With natural stretch fabric, a flexing waistband, or a collar that stretches up to half an inch. One thing is certain, uncomfortable clothing just became history. Shop the collection now at Kohl's or JCPenney.
On Echo devices, in your bathroom, in your kitchen, in your brain. Bernie and Sid in the morning. Enable and open. 77 WABC.
Back here with Art Shamsky and Eric Sherman. The book is After the Miracle. Bernie read it off earlier Friday. He'll be in Rockville Center Saturday in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Bookends. I did my signing there. It's a great place. Saturday in Queens at Book Culture, and Thursday at the Book Review, a great spot at Huntington, Long Island. So you were telling Bernie and I when we broke last time, you know, I've got a 10-year-old son, for example, Gabriel. He falls into the category you're talking about. He knows all about you guys, and he's still mad at Jim Fregosi, God rest his soul, to this day. So what do the kids tell you now, 50 years later?
I run into all sorts of people who tell me that back in 1969, when we won the fifth game, the clinching game, they were all at the ballpark. I would venture to say 150,000 people told me they were there. The ballpark held 53. So everybody, whatever they say, I believe. You know, and if they thought they were there, that was great. Yeah. But at some point during the season, if they were around, they were there for a moment. There was so many great things that year, Sid and Bernie. You know, you had the almost perfect game by Seaver.
Right.
You had the Black Cat that ran on the field at Shea Stadium. You had Steve Carlton striking out 19 of us in a game that we won 4-2 because Ron Swoboda hit two-run home runs.
Right.
We had a doubleheader in Pittsburgh where we won 1-0 each game, and the starting pitchers drove in the winning run, which was unbelievable.
By the way, talking about Pittsburgh, we keep going back and forth with trivia questions. Bernie Art Shamsky, the only position player ever to hit 3 home runs batting in the 9th spot, and it came against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Here's that dower that I owe you for bringing
that.
Yeah. I hit 4 home runs in a row one time.
Yes.
I think I'm the only person in history to hit 3 in a game that didn't start the game.
Right.
And then
you
guys will get a kick out of this. I didn't start the game after that, after hitting 4 home runs in a row.
See, but it's all about
no good deed goes unpunished.
There you go, Bernie. Exactly. And maybe the biggest moment of that season was the fact, not a moment, but a time period, where, again, August 14th, you guys are in 3rd place. You're 10 games back. You make up that, you go 14-3 in August, 24-8 September and October, and you beat the Cubbies by 8 games. That 18-game differential to this day is still the largest in baseball history. It's really simple, Art Shamsky and Eric. What the hell happened? What got turned on?
You know, we were, as you mentioned, in the middle of August, we were still kind of languishing somewhere in third place around there. And all of a sudden, we started to win those close games. We knew we had good defense and great pitching. And what's interesting about those games is that everybody at some point contributed to the success of that team. Whether it was Al Weiss or Wayne Garrett or Ed Charles, somebody helped us win
In fact,
games.
in the book, in the chapter, you talk about J.C. Martin's bunt, which was a very, very big deal.
Yeah, in the World Series,
in the World
a big
Series,
play.
right?
Yeah, and J.C. was an integral part of that team, and we just had terrific pitching, young pitching, and great defense, and we started to win close games. That's the secret. It was there was nothing. You didn't be a brain surgeon to figure it out. We started to win close games that we normally found ways to lose, and that was the genius in Gil Hodges of being able to work with us and teach us things that we needed to know. And as you mentioned, I think Gil should be in the Hall of Fame.
No doubt. And of course, prior to that, you'd never finish higher than 9th place in a 10-team league, as a matter of fact. So, I mean, that made it all the more amazing. Again, the amazing Mets.
Well, that's one of the things I was talking about, Bernie, is that the fact of where we came from and then won it all against a terrific Baltimore Oriole team. I mean, they had 3 20-game winning pitchers. And
had 4, I think, right?
Well, next year,
McAnally and Palmer, right.
And if they would have won that series against us, they would have been known as one of the great teams of that era.
Yeah.
And they lost, and they've never lived it down. In fact, Eric wrote a book with Davey Johnson, and Davey still thinks they were the much better team. And,
he was here in the studio about 6 months ago yelling about that.
That's right.
Yeah, and then I said to Davey, I said, don't worry about what happened in Baltimore. In fact that you only won 1 World Series with those 86 Mets, that's your real downfall. And he took it to heart. He was like, you know what? A lot of people say that, and you're probably right. But what do you think of Davey Johnson when he wrote that book?
Davey, one of the most intelligent baseball people I've ever met. You haven't truly watched a baseball game until you've watched it with Davey. I mean, brought sabermetrics to baseball. A lot of people don't realize that. But the irony with this book, with Art, is that Davey flies out to end the '69 series, and then 17 years later,
wins the World Series.
He wins the World Series as the manager of the Mets.
It's unbelievable. All right, we got 30 seconds to go, Art. So in the end, this book, and again, you talk about the relationships, Seaver, Kuzman, all the guys on the team. 10 years from now, I mentioned this book, Art and Eric. You want people to say what about After the Miracle?
I want him to say that it was a team that really cared about each other, pulled for each other. We tuned in 4 or 5 positions. Everybody pulled for each other. A team that saw adversity early and then won it all. And one of the most iconic teams in the history of baseball, in my opinion. It will never be more iconic than the 27 Yankees or the 47 Dodgers. But in the history of Major League Baseball, I think the 1969 Mets will be really known as one of the great teams in the history of the game.
No doubt about it. The book is After the Miracle.
Applause again. I got to keep coming back.
After the Miracle, the lasting brotherhood of the '69 Mets. Again, Rockville Center Friday night. Turn of the Corkscrew Books and Wine, and Saturday Ridgewood Bookends, New Jersey, 1:00. Art Shamsky, can you sing the Rheingold jingle? By the way,
no, but I bet you can.
My beer is Rheingold, the dry beer. Art Shamsky, you're the best. You're one of the greats, a legend. Thank you for coming into the Bernie and Sid Show. And you too, Eric Sherman.
Oh, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Great
time,
guys.